Welcome to the Positivity Room, where the good vibes grow.
One of the things Eden and I have learned over the years is that every meaningful change in our pets' lives and our own lives has started with a question. Not an answer, a question. Today we're sitting down with Dr. Katie Kangas, someone who's spent years exploring what happens when you stay curious long enough to see beyond symptoms and start looking at the whole picture. We're not here as experts, we're here as students, and hopefully everyone listening can learn right alongside us. We're Pure Pawsitivity, so woofs up, everybody. My name's Bobby. I got my beautiful wife, Eden.
Hello.
The positivity pack around. But the star of the show, what do you want to say, sir? Say, I am Carlito. Welcome back, everybody. This is where we go over and talk about all the things that are going alongside the wellness mirror between human wellness and pet wellness. Dr. Katie Kangas is on the show today. Dr. Katie, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself?
Thank you so much, Bobby. And what a great lead-in, what a great intro. And I love how you talked about the mirroring of, the humans and pets. Interestingly, and I'll describe a little bit more about myself, but as an integrative veterinarian for years now and focusing on holistic and whole body health, but I've also very much intentionally brought in my work and my passion and even my guidance for people is the connection between our pets and us. And my practice symbol for my veterinary practice, integrative veterinary care, is actually the yin-yang symbol with a human hand in one side and the pet paw in the other side. And just like this whole circle and, balance of wellness includes, all of us, and especially our pets sharing our space, our heart space, our energy, our biofield. They're so tapped into us. And, especially dogs, cats too, but dogs to a really high extent, very much blend into their owner's energy, their pet parents' energy. And they can really mirror a lot from us. And so not only are they beautiful teachers for us throughout life, we learn so many lessons from our pets, but they can really reflect to us some things that it's nice for them to, be the messenger for us sometimes and reflect things that we need to see. But I just thought that was so darn cool how you led into that, because that's been something I've tapped into for a long time. And I will also say that through the years, I've had such a beautiful, rewarding sort of feedback from, my clients and pet parents, in that they find me oftentimes because they're looking for the root cause of their pet's condition and, really wanting to get into whole body health and more proactive wellness, etc. And for some of my clients, they're already doing some holistic things and integrative things for themselves, and they want to apply to the pets. But a lot of times, people aren't even doing that for themselves. And, their pet is their motivation to get them to search out these types of, options in healthcare. And they find me, and through working with their pet, through the, weeks or months thereafter, they come back to me and say, oh my goodness, I'm so excited. Not only is my pet healthier, but I'm healthier, my spouse is healthier, my kids are healthier. Like, so many things are starting to branch out and network into what they do for themselves and their human family members. So I just, love that whole intro and kind of leading into our discussion. I think with that is a beautiful thing. But I will just back up and respond more directly to your question. Thank you very much. In that my background, just to, let all the audience know, I've been a veterinarian, I can't believe I can say this, for more than 33 years this year. And I've been through a lot of different sort of niches within my career. I certainly started out with conventional, primary veterinary practice. I actually did exotics and wildlife for a while too, and I worked in, some zoos and wildlife centers, so I've done that, and even exotics in practice. Then I fell into shelter medicine. And I became the medical director of the San Diego Humane and SPCA for 5 years, and I actually stayed part-time in the shelter system for a while, just helping out, 1 day a week or whatever, even after I opened my own practice. So I've done a lot of rescue and shelter work, so that's very near and dear to my heart. While I was in the shelter full time, my own dog at that time, this was back in 2005, was my inspiration and my motivation, and her legacy will live on in such a beautiful, beautiful way, is that she was my reason, my story for seeking out, working as a holistic veterinarian, because I was searching and reaching for things that could help her. In her older years, she was 14, and I was always interested in holistic, but I didn't have any known mentor or background in it yet. But for her benefit, it inspired me to go seek that out. And through doing acupuncture for her, changing her diet, she was kibble fed. I mean, this was 20 years ago, and we all learn as we go. And of course, back then, very different for me too. And so through changing her diet, fresh food diet, tapping into herbs and acupuncture, my dog, who I thought I was going to lose within a few months, literally I got 2 more years with her of quality lifespan too, not just elongated, without that wonderful quality. So I was completely inspired, and I'm like, I can't not do this. I resigned from the shelter, and I went into acupuncture school and Chinese medicine and got certified in 2008, and then went on to do advanced acupuncture, food therapy, herbal courses. And then just fast forwarding, what's really evolved for me through the years of doing holistic and integrative is my niche now. I would say my forward niche is functional medicine. And you've probably heard that term, just for, the audience. There's a lot of functional medicine doctors on the human side and now on the veterinary side too. And so I really, have more of a focused approach of supporting the body to function at its innate brilliance, because our bodies are designed to know how to stay in balance, to have resilience, to be able to get back into balance. But a lot of times we have to get out of the way. We also have to, give the right tools, obviously the nutrition, remove as many of the offenders as possible, the heavy toxin loads and chemicals and, etc., processed foods, and really supporting the body to function at its best, because it knows how to do that if we just give it the allowance to do so. So that's kind of where I focus my niche now, but I bring in Chinese medicine, I bring in homeopathy, I bring in herbs, and certainly, nutrition and food medicine.
Awesome.
Wow, you're just such a busy lady, and just thank you for what you do. Because really, it's your customers aren't saying thank you with words, but we'll do it for them. We speak with them quite a bit, so I'm sure you do too. But
You were listening.
I sure do. Thank you.
You're listening to. Yeah.
was there like you were talking about your dog there, the 14-year-old? Was that kind of like the moment where like conventional medicine stopped feeling, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like complete, if you will?
Absolutely, Bobby. Well said. It didn't feel complete. I knew that, in her particular story, just to share, she was experiencing extreme weakness in her hind end, so in her pelvic limbs or hind limbs. And for a lot of dogs, there starts to be some inflammatory patterns in the spine or the lower spine. And she wasn't really in pain. She was just in, dysfunction. And maybe some discomfort, but point being is conventional medicine didn't have a lot to offer, and I didn't want to keep her on chronic medication. Prednisone, a lot of dogs are very sensitive to that. We certainly like to avoid the permanent use of that, etc. So there wasn't a lot of complete. There wasn't really anything else that I could tap into. It wasn't a situation where surgery was appropriate, etc. So I knew there had to be more, and so I was looking for more of a complete option, and quite frankly, a larger toolbox. Our toolbox is relatively narrowed in conventional medicine, and just to say this too, and I speak a lot and really reflect on this also. We do need conventional medicine. We need our Western medicine. Trauma is going to happen, and even chronic disease at some point can tip into crisis mode. And if you have a chronic disease, whether it's heart failure and boom, all of a sudden you're in congestive heart failure, after a year of murmur or years of murmurs, etc., no matter what the issue is, even GI illness, etc., IBD can tip into, extreme malabsorption and weight loss and all this kind of stuff. So sometimes you need to dip into your Western medicine, but generally that is, we should be using that to sort of address the crisis moment, and then you swoop in with your holistic and integrative to really get to the root of the issue and resolve the problem. Because Western medicine techniques, unless it's surgical or trauma and you're repairing something right away, for anything chronic, Western medicine almost never solves the problem. It's just, treating and managing. And, so there's so many more tools in our integrative and holistic toolbox. So
I love that. You talk about problem and symptom, and I use this analogy sometimes with obesity or overweight, whereas that's the symptom, not the problem. And, the actual problem underlying is a cellular problem usually, or insulin sensitivity. Whereas we start to kind of look at pet wellness now as the pet being unhealthy isn't really that's more the symptom. It's actually more the people that are problem. We're the problem. So, that's kind of I just love that, that whole philosophy that you have there of getting to the actual problem instead of the symptom, which is where I think a lot of people get stuck.
Agreed. And, we're so in the modern world, we are very sort of programmed, even subconsciously to, want to fix that symptom. And it's nice to sort of, pull back and realize that the symptom, I think, as you were saying, is a message from the body that things are out of balance. So it's like, hey, look at me, something's wrong. The symptom is a display of imbalance happening in the body. And so it really is a good messenger. And not to say, if the symptoms are causing absolute misery and pain and all that kind of stuff, so not to say that it's wrong to address symptoms, but if we simply always try to get rid of or dampen out a symptom, and we're not looking at that as a message to what else do we need to do to support the body, then we're really missing the whole point of the symptom, and really missing an opportunity to bring that body into a better healed state and a better balance and wellness, harmony.
Yeah, love that. So where does homeopathy come into the picture here? And has that been just a passion of yours, or, for all these years, or what's going on?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, for asking that, because it is such a unique niche within the holistic toolbox. And I'm just going to start by making this distinction for you, because I have found through the years that a lot of people, even Western medicine doctors, a lot of veterinarians, I see the chart and they're like, oh, this, pet also sees a homeopathic doctor, when they really meant holistic. So just to give people that distinction, holistic is sort of the overall umbrella of all natural medicine, proactive wellness, looking at the body as a whole, entity, and not just, compartmentalizing like Western medicine often does. So whole body health, natural support of that, that's all holistic. And then within holistic, you have your Chinese medicine and your acupuncture and, herbs, and you can have Western herbs, you can have Chinese herbs. And then homeopathy is a whole nother category or subset within the holistic toolbox. And so homeopathy is very, very specific and unique. And I have been using it for years. So fortunately, my mentor, who I first, who was working on my dog, and then, paved the way for me to work with him once I became certified in acupuncture, but he also utilized homeopathy. So I started utilizing homeopathy from the start, went to some courses and added to my knowledge, etc., but I've been using it clinically for 20 years. And it's such a nice adjunct, or a standalone for that matter. But what homeopathy is it is natural ingredients that are very diluted. So it's a very safe form of medicine that's been used for, or a holistic tool that's been used for more than 200 years and dates even, prior back to that. But through a series of dilution of natural ingredients, it's really diluting it to a very, very small amount in, the preparation, to where it's lost any toxic properties or negative, it's such a safe medicine, but it's just enough to energetically stimulate the body to initiate its own healing mechanisms and to initiate going back into balance, or homeostasis, we call it, when the body's in balance. And so homeopathy actually works more on an energetic mechanism in the body, almost, in the realm of quantum biology, as opposed to obviously pharmaceuticals, working very different, with chemicals affecting different pathways in the body. Herbs also, though, need to be ingested and, work more metabolically, but homeopathy is actually working energetically, which is really cool and so different. And so it lends to a lot of advantages for using homeopathy, in the fact that because it's working energetically, often if homeopathy is going to work for that individual, whatever remedy we're choosing, it typically works fast, because energy works fast. You don't, a lot of herbs and sometimes even medicines can take a while to take the effect. With homeopathy, generally the effect is going to happen pretty quickly, because it's energetically helping the body to, again, sort of nudge it back into recognizing balance and making that move for itself. So when we are supporting the body through, even, obviously we're going after supporting it to completely heal, and homeopathy can do that, but it can also be a great tool for addressing symptoms along the way without suppressing anything internally or causing any, cover-up issues. So even for things like allergies and itching or GI problems, homeopathy can work beautifully to make an immediate impact while you're still working on, the root cause and the other approaches that we can tie in with that.
Wow. It's just I can tell you, like, that's very confusing at first when you're trying to look. I'm glad that you explained the difference between homeopathic and holistic. We early on in our journey, we had a product that we named homeopathic, and it was not homeopathic. We just looked it up on the internet. Like, we were like, oh, it seems more this than it is this.
Yeah, it was inaccurate.
So it's very confusing. So don't worry if people have made the mistake. So did we, and we openly admit that.
Yep, absolutely. And that's why I'm glad you shared that. And that's why I said it, because it is a very commonly, misunderstood term, know. And the word homeopathy actually dates back to, like ancient Greek medicine, really. And homeopathy is like heals like. And so when you're choosing a homeopathic remedy, it is a component, an ingredient. They're all organic, plant, animal, mineral, origin of these remedies. But it's a remedy that would stimulate a similar symptom. If you had it at full strength in nature, your body could be affected with the symptom that you're actually trying to resolve. But because it is uber dilute, in fact, conventional medicine doctors look at homeopathy and they're like, that's hocus pocus. There's no way that can work. It's like water. It's so dilute. There's like nothing in there. But again, quantum energy works so differently, and just that little tiny bit is enough for the body to recognize and just nudge it to start its own, balancing process and homeostasis efforts. And so it is really a unique, method. And it's used, and here's the other great thing, it's used worldwide, a lot of, especially in Europe. And the modern day homeopathy came out of Germany. And so, you'll see homeopathic, little pharmacies everywhere around Europe. India is big as well. But also homeopathy can be used in all species. And so again, my formulas are created for dogs and cats, but can be used certainly in other species and humans. And you know, homeopathic remedies are so versatile across species and ages. And here's the other thing: a lot of people, homeopathy, if they're interested in anything natural and avoiding the overuse of medications, most people tap into homeopathy for their infants, toddlers, and children. And a lot of people with, you know, little babies and toddlers with ear infections and, you know, even teething. I mean, tiny kids. People turn to homeopathy because it's so safe for children too. And it
I was one of
truly,
those kids. Oh, and I was a weird kid in like the 90s, right? But I would tell my, fellow friends at the time what, and they're like, that's weird, you know? Now today it's probably more known in their life, but yeah, it works.
yeah, they do. It's that they still, you know, the coolest thing, actually, this is really funny, is I created this product and I still am amazed at how effective they are. Like, I constantly get feedback from people and I'm like, oh my God, these formulas work so well. Like, it just jazzes me up. I get, you know, extra reward every day going, wow, this is really a tool within, you know, holistic options that was, you know, I think a little under tapped into, you know, in pet health. And there's only a few other well-known, well-distributed product lines out there that have homeopathics available for pets. And then mine is a little unique and, you know, innovative in comparison, in the fact that I have designed my products to be a little different in the format, is that the pellets, so all of my homeopathic products are blends, and so they're custom blends, but you know, I have the label so you can see exactly which remedies are in there and what potencies and all that. But they're blends that I have put together. And you know, we can go through them, but you know, each of the formulas are of course designed for certain things, from allergy to detox support, mobility, tummy, GI, etc. But they're formulated so that all of the remedies are in the pellets, and the bottle comes without any liquid in it, with just the pellets. And then the pet parent actually adds clean water, filtered water, purified water of any kind, can be reverse osmosis or distilled, or just, you know, filtered water, just so we don't have all the toxins to interfere with our energetics. We don't want tap water. But the pet parent, you know, reconstitutes the product or hydrates the product, and then the pellets dissolve, and voila, you have your suspension. All other homeopathic products on the market to date, unless they're little tablets, which usually are, you know, a little high maintenance for pets to try to get them to, you know, to take those in. But most products have either alcohol in them or glycerin to stabilize it as a liquid. And then sometimes there's palatability issues with that, with the alcohol. Some people, of course, don't want to use the alcohol, but a lot of pets, especially cats or certainly finicky dogs, once they taste that and they don't like it, they run from you every time they see the bottle. And one of the phenomenal things, which actually is even so much more amazing than I expected it to be, is that with this water-based product, pets like it. And we literally have people sending us videos of their cats coming to the bottle and licking the little drips, you know, coming off of the dropper. And they're like, yes, they know energetically that it's helping them, and they're drawn to it, and they don't mind it. And, you know, there's no, you know, bad taste to it. So it ends up being such a beautiful match and easy to give.
It's a really cool. I mean, so the fact that it still blows your mind is really, really, I love that. You know, that's so cool. Do you think, I think this might be a thing, our human brains, you know, going back to those doctors you're talking about, the Western medicine ones, it's like, it blows their mind too, because it's not measurable. And so
Yes.
and our brains just want to be able to like work in measurables. And so you're like, wait, this doesn't, you can't tell me why it works though. So that's not measurable in numbers. And that's like, that's something that why our pets are such an incredible bridge, because just like with Sean Cahill's product Tavati, you know, that you put onto a dog's skin, there's no placebo, just like with yours too. I mean, with homeopathy in general. And plus, let's be real, it's been relevant for how long, you know, a long
Right.
time.
It's gotta have substance of, efficacy to it, or it wouldn't still be around. Just like Chinese medicine. I mean, talk about tried and true. Same. I love that. And, the other thing you were talking about, having a topical to put in. One of the other great things about homeopathy is that it doesn't interfere with anything else. And sometimes pet parents, of course, can get overwhelmed with numbers of supplements and, oh, my pet's really sensitive. And, and quite frankly, as a holistic and integrative veterinarian, one of my roles that I love to support people with is, if necessary, streamlining what they're doing. Because sometimes people come to me and the pet's on no supplements. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're at baseline. Like, there's so many great things we can do. We got to pick and choose, like, what are the highest priorities for this pet. But sometimes people come to me and they seriously have a list of 25 items that their pet is on, and I'm like, woo, right. That's a lot. Like, let's go through this list and streamline of what things are redundant, what things maybe aren't so necessary, because this is a lot to put in your pet each day, or certainly their dish or their meal. And so sometimes, things start getting a little overwhelming with numbers of things. And herbs, even though far safer than pharmaceuticals, by and large, I mean, there's a lot of, flexibility and safety within herbs, but still things can counteract each other. Things can build up too heavy, too many things, etc. And homeopathy offers a nice option within that whole, mix of things, in the fact that it's not interfering or influencing anything else, whether it's pharmaceutical or herbal, but it's also so different. It can work quicker, as we just talked about. And so people are usually going to know within, days if this homeopathic, remedy is a good match for them and helping the situation. Whereas a lot of herbs and other tools, you got to keep doing it for a while before you may notice, or be able to assess if this is something you want to keep in the regimen. So it just offers another nice option where it complements things and might simplify things, actually, a lot of times in, scenarios that way too. I was actually just telling
him, I do the feedings in the morning, and we have 5 different mouths to feed, 5 different individuals that don't need all of your drops. One of them, though, is she's kind of rehabbing into better health and does need majority of the drops. Different categories that you have, from stress to nerve to mobility, and then immune, everybody gets. So it's one of those things that when you put it in that one bowl, I'm like, look how safe and awesome and easy we're targeting all these ailments for this one dog, yet also safe if anybody else needed it at some point, right? Like, oh, these 2 are seniors now, let's give them some mobility, let's, or something, right? So it's fun, actually. It's like I think it's fun. So if you have fun, what you do.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, Eden. And it doesn't, another just little nuance to heighten what you just said, is that these homeopathic remedies are not taxing digestion at all. They're not even requiring any digestion. And you can absolutely put them in the food. They will work that way. But you can also put them directly in the mouth, because they absorb from the gums or the mucous membranes, and they get very rapidly right into the body that way. So if a pet, especially with the tummy formula, if the pet is not eating, or, has some nausea, or, just GI sensitivity, it's really nice to know that homeopathy is really bypassing the gut. It's not, like herbs and medicines where the gut has to assimilate it and, absorb it and dispense it to the, systemic system. Homeopathy doesn't work that way. So it can go in the food, but it's not taxing digestion at all. So.
Okay.
Well, and your delivery method, so there's so much crossover. We just had Jeff from Totonics on, the blood. Yeah, it's such a cool product, such a cool guy. Now, he was talking about bioavailability and the best way for our pets, especially, to receive anything, especially hydration or ingredients, vitamins, micronutrients, things like that. And your delivery method is liquid. And that's what he was talking about, is like through the mucous membranes, and all of that is where they're going to absorb the most. And there's, like you were saying, there's not any other homeopathic products like that for pets that I know of. So.
Yeah, and I mean, the other homeopathic products do absorb through, the gums, but with other carriers that sometimes make it a bit of an obstacle to easily be able to give that and administer it to pets. And so this, offers a very user-friendly way to do that pets, they just seem like they gravitate to it. It's just
Well,
such
yeah, I
a
mean,
such a
most are
good
so
match.
dehydrated too. Dogs and cats are very dehydrated in most diets in general, no matter what. So just having a little bit of water and tincture, they're probably like, heck yeah.
Right,
It's
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
great.
What a beautiful delivery system, and the water, the body's 70% water. I mean, water is so energetically charged and everything too, and so you can kind of get into some cool mechanics within that. But yeah, anything for extra hydration, which Totonics is fabulous at as well.
Yeah. So I guess why create your own remedies then? Was there something that you were seeing?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. So the way that I could sort of lead into that is that classic homeopathy. So just classically, the origin of it, a lot of homeopathic practitioners their goal would be to find the one remedy that creates that change for the body, that steers the body into the healing phase. And so classic homeopaths really like to choose one remedy at a time. And then they have to hear back from the patient though. What's happened? What, did symptom patterns shift? Now what are you seeing? And then they keep sort of correcting and going for, if that one didn't, usually it's a process and a series of going through and supporting the body with each sort of shift of getting to that end shift where things are really, resolving. And it can be a process. New age homeopathy and biotherapeutics, homotoxicology, there's all kinds of stuff that, we can get into, and certain products that sort of align with that. New age is a little more blends, and that's kind of where I started from, and I saw such success with it that's been my approach with homeopathy, is to blend things. And not to say that sometimes I could just, may recommend, and before I made my own products, I would tell people, I can create it for you. I mix the stuff in a bottle, but you could just use Nux vomica by itself if your pet is having indigestion, reflux, nausea, stomach cramping, any of that. I mean, Nux vomica is a superstar for that, but I blend it with, a handful of other remedies within my tummy blend, and I see even more success when it's blended. And so that's what I did through the years, is when I would see patients in-house in my clinic. Now I do a lot of telemedicine, so it's great to have a product because I can just, send that out, or people can order it. But for years, I would literally, I had all the different remedies in my, homeopathic pharmacy area, and I would do custom blends for each patient. I'd say, okay, this patient's got this going on, and these are the things that I want to blend together. And I just found through the years that there, these certain blends that I kept using, and every once in a while I might tweak it a little bit, differently, obviously, for an individual, but for the main stay, or the main, time of things, the majority of time, I would be using, a similar or same blend. And finally I was like, you know what, I should just create a product, because people love it. The feedback I get, it works. People want refills all the time. And I'm like, hey, let's just get this out there. So that's how it evolved.
Well, I mean, that's a perfect way. That's a perfect story, because I think that the best products come from paying attention, and it sounds like you were definitely paying attention. And I wonder, within homeopathics, even we talk about synergy a lot, with synergies between ingredients. Obviously with those actual like caloric components gone, there'd still be energetic synergies, and I wonder if those would be even different or the same. That's just so cool.
Yeah.
Right. And I love that you brought that in. So many things in nature and in holistic tools and herbs are synergistic. And so, we always talk about, isolates of things. The pharmaceutical world wants to isolate and potentiate and, chemically reproduce it. And a plant has, hundreds or thousands of, different constituents in it that are all synergistically giving the plant medicine its, ultimate effect. And so synergy's, a big thing. And there are a lot of herbal synergy formulas that, you combine things and they work they work really well together. That's what Chinese medicine is all about. I mean, there's tons of different herbs in most Chinese medicine formulas. And so homeopathy, very similar, is where you blend things and you can get this wonderful synergy with them.
I love it.
Yeah. Reminds me of, like, I lived in Portland, Oregon, and then one of the first things that you talked, like, it's like tea. If you have green tea and you mix a little bit of lemon, like a couple drops of lemon juice, it like boosts the antioxidants and all the good properties of green tea like 10 times even stronger, just to add a little lemon. So you never, or turmeric and black pepper, that kind of combo.
Right, yeah, affecting the bioavailability, and there's all kinds of synergistic partnerships of how that can roll out with
even humans working together. Collaboration is synergy.
Yes.
Yay! Well said.
Yeah,
So true.
we touched a little bit earlier on the mirror that is like, it's a growing mirror that is between human wellness and pet wellness. It's the same. How often in your practice have you seen it where pets, they end up, I guess, teaching us the same lessons that we're trying to teach them?
Yes, I will say, and you can reframe that for any specifics out of that question, Bobby, but as far as mirroring, such an interesting conversation, about pets being our mirror, and even taking on some of our energetic imbalances. And so pets literally presenting with the same conditions, same health conditions, and same disease patterns that their pet parents have. And I've recognized through the years a lot of holistic and integrative vets. This is a pretty hot topic of conversation actually right now. It's really hitting peak awareness. But even in the mainstream, conventional veterinarians are starting to realize this too. That oftentimes when a pet comes in with a certain condition, in talking to, going through the history of the pet and, explaining everything to the pet parent about what's going on, the pet parent will lean in and say, I have this same condition too. And then, you see it enough times and you're like, oh, so you don't say. Interesting, like it really, it's very surprising actually how much that plays out. And literally specifically to where the pet has a thyroid condition, the pet parent has a thyroid condition. The pet has a kidney problem, the pet parent has a kidney problem. I've also heard amazing stories about people who literally, their pet, had a condition where they were searching for, what the problem was. It inspired them to get themselves checked out, going, wow, I haven't had like a full workup in a while, etc. And they found cancer in themselves in exactly the body system that the pet had affected. It was truly the pet like saying, I want to help you. I'm going to be a mirror so that you can find this for yourself. And I know, like, really, just got the chills too thinking that. And there are integrative veterinarians. Actually, a friend of mine, Dr. Barry Sands, who gets very much into, biofield and quantum entanglement of pets and humans. And she actually did a study, clinical interview study, where asking pet parents if their pets reflect some of the symptoms that they have, and found a very statistically significant representation of dogs more than cats, dogs mimicking disease conditions or health problems more so often for, with their family members, human family members, than cats, but cats do too. And then the other thing she found in that, interview study is that it's the most bonded person that pet is to in the family oftentimes, that's who they're reflecting, which of course makes sense when we know that, we're so entangled. So really interesting stuff.
No, it really is. Would you say that you've seen it where if people start, feeding their pet better nutrition and paying attention to what they're putting in their pet's bowl, that they start paying attention a little bit more to what they're putting in their own?
Absolutely. That's one of the things that just was such a huge reward for me through the years, especially early on as an integrative veterinarian, is that, and that's when the realization came. And the funny thing is I had already picked my logo. I knew I was always about, my tagline was empowering pet parents to become better advocates for their pet's wellness. I always wanted the pet parent to be involved, informed, in the whole, not only decision making factor, but just understanding everything about their pet's health and what role they can take in it. Because a lot of people in the modern, world and medical system have, and it's changing, thank goodness, but for a while, a lot of, people, again, in modern countries kind of went to the passive role in even their own healthcare. Go to the doctor, let the doctor tell you what to do. Okay, just throw a prescription at you and you just take it and be like, okay, great, thanks. And veterinary medicine got that way too. And not, a lot of times not great communication with the pet parent of really explaining, what's the pet's condition? How did it arise? Where did it come from? What are the, factors that led the pet to where it is right now? And then even the prescriptions that are being given, not even explained. So my passion was always to really explain everything well to people so that they were taking a more active role in supporting their pet's best health. And then I found through doing that when they started feeding their pet better and thinking about, less toxins in their life, or, all of these different factors that roll in, they start doing the same things for themselves. And the humans end up healthier. And I've always said, I have such double reward because, I got in it to help animals, and I end up helping just as many humans as the animals. And so it's a super win-win.
That's really beautiful.
I really align with that one.
Yeah, I mean, I love your slogan too about empowering people, to be advocates for their own pets. We talk about agency. That's one of the things that we're just trying to help people just get back to, because a lot of, like you were saying, we've unfortunately gotten to a point where we don't even think about the fact that we're outsourcing our own thoughts, to everything, to doctors, to our accountant, whatever. We don't even think about anything. It just goes out the door. It's easier to, be convenient, right? And that's kind of what we've done with our pet nutrition too, isn't it?
It really has. Yep. And, we know our body's best, and it's good to tap into good resources and doctors and, healthcare professionals that can help guide us as to what to do best for our body. But we have to remember that we are, we know ourselves best, and we know our pets better than any, healthcare provider that's in your team. I love to call it a team. You can have your holistic integrative, veterinarian, you can have your conventional, primary veterinarian, but oftentimes there's specialists involved, whether it's a cardiologist or a neurologist or an internist, and you have a team, and it takes a village, and you've got all these people to tap into, which is amazing and often necessary. But pet parents often give up their power, and they literally give it away and go, somebody just tell. And it's gotten to the point where people don't, oftentimes, quite frankly, people don't want to have to even think for themselves. It's because people are overwhelmed in today's world. There's a lot of information coming at us all the time. People get overwhelmed, and sometimes they just shut down. They're just like, doctor, tell me what to do. Just tell me exactly what to do for my pet. And I'm like, I'm going to support you with information, and I'm going to guide you. But really, it's your role in this, and don't give up your role, because it's important. It's a powerful role, and your pet's depending on you to step into that role, and so it's beautiful to support people in that, and it really does empower them and kind of brings them back into a space that we've been losing sort of, in recent years.
I love that there's even vets, out there like yourself, because the overwhelm, what you're talking about with the fear. I mean, we were there, guys. We were those pet guardians. That were lost too many pets, family pets, way too early, to all these things. And so it's like you can still make a change. And there's information out there now, which is incredible. The biggest thing that we try to do is truly, we're called Pure Pawsitivity for a reason, because you can go down that negative rabbit hole forever. But we try to stay positive about it and just do something different, because fear is contagious, but Guess what else is contagious? Wellness.
Yeah.
And we're spreading it. We're spreading it every day.
Yes.
And doctors like yourself who are making it accessible for people. That's important. A lot of people are so scared that of the money, the financial side of things. To go to a veterinarian or a doctor, and that's really sad when you really boil it down to the most important thing that we have. It's our health, and people are afraid to do anything to of something that's going to go out that they're putting above their own health.
Yes, yes, and like you said, the financial piece is often a limitation factor. I love to remind people, I mean, do the best you can with your budget for everything you select for your pet. The obviously the diet, the food, going in, but to remind people that every penny you spend proactively in feeding your pet right, or tapping into that holistic or integrative or wonderful even pet health retail center where you can find good things to support your pet's health, everything you do to tap in there, every penny spent saves you dollars, and sometimes big time dollars on the back end. And let's invest more in being healthy and maintaining health and health span, rather than waiting until there's a problem and then having to spend a lot of money trying to resolve that problem, and then having a miserable pet with that problem in the meantime. So the expense is real for people, but it's really nice to put into context that the alternative is even worse if we're not investing.
Yeah, I mean cheap habits. Yeah, cheap always collects its debt. One, that's a good. I like these little slogans, little phrases. The other one is, we have to you treat your food as medicine, or medicine will be your food.
Yes, and it's very, very true. Yeah. So that aligns perfectly, obviously, with what I do and what I preach. So love it.
Do you think that because I feel very different in the industry than it was even a year ago. Do you feel that there's like a genuine shift happening within the pet wellness industry?
I do. I think more awareness is growing. I think rapidly even. And the pandemic, for all of its negatives, there were many. Clearly, positives came out of that too. There's a lot of silver linings. And I think it was a huge wake up for a lot of people to really shift, and some people, it's more so tunneled into the fear, and like you said, fear is contagious, but a lot of people, and sometimes it's just your own path and when that's going to happen for you, but a lot of people, large scale numbers of people are, sort of waking up and getting different awareness of, again, empowering themselves of, what really can we do in a more active role for ourselves and our pets. And there had already been a growing interest in integrative care for pets and holistic care for pets, but it's rising rapidly. And that is a wonderful thing.
It is.
Yeah.
We've been doing this podcast long enough to where we can start to notice some patterns. And I will say that like the COVID thing is probably one of the most prominent. That's like almost all of our guests who have been on our show are health forward, and a lot of us were just spurred or born from, or whatever, us included, from that COVID era, and so grateful for that. And also we're also aware of like the repercussions too. But
right. But
as humans,
good
we
things
always
came out of it.
Exactly. It is, as humans, that's usually what it is. It's always we learn from our failures, our mistakes, our traumas, and things. So
exactly, and sometimes something that it has negative aspects or seems very negative at the time ends up, leaving an amazing legacy in many ways. And even the fact that I do telemedicine now was, a sequelae of the pandemic, and I was mostly, I think I was all really before that happened, in person, and now I am primarily and very soon to be all telemedicine, because there are many veterinarians out there, and more, coming, that do the hands-on body work, do the acupuncture and the chiropractic and laser therapy and all these great things we can do to support the body to heal and to, improve its wellness. But in order to be that guide and really do sort of that deep dive and spend the time and the intention, my telemedicine sessions are an hour. Because it takes time to really support people in the best way of working through everything that's going on with their pet. And so now I can reach more people, all over the country and even the world. And they can tap into their, in-person people local to them. And then I can be the guide that puts all the puzzle pieces together and gives them the whole body wellness plan that, they can really put all the pieces together. So I love that. And it brings so much value to people. So it really jazzes me up.
You're absolutely right. I mean, that's a hugely like understated industry, what you're doing there, because we talked about accessibility earlier. We're talking about people who couldn't get vets for decades that now can get veterinarians, in their areas. So that's really, really cool. Really neat that you're doing that. We want more people out there like yourself, like more veterinarians, and because you say that we feel that there's more. It feels like there's more veterinarians exploring holistic approaches now. Maybe that's because we're in this, maybe it's proximity, but it does feel that way. And I hope that it is going that way. What can we do as like small pet shop owners to support that type of movement, to support veterinarians that, because we are not anti-vet. Can't say that enough times. Literally would not. And so we just want to support more of this and work with those people.
Wonderful comment and question. Thank you so much. It's so nice for you to be, thinking in that broad context of, you're there as a wonderful resource for people, providing great products, great, input and, and advice and guidance and all of that. But again, it takes a village, and, obviously people need to tap into a medical professional. And it's nice for you to even be thinking, how do we support the veterinarians that are providing this, niche of service that's so needed. And so, I think by you having that the conversations with, with your customers, your clients is so great to not, like you said, we're not anti-vet. I'm very careful too, even though I see stuff all the time that is being done in conventional medicine and, pets come to me. I'm very careful with my words and not, creating a lot of negative against, oh, this was done, et cetera, et cetera. It's where do we go from here and how does we support forward positive movement? Pure positivity, I love it, is staying in that positive and, where do we go from here? So just, helping to guide them and steer them and giving them alternatives or even just ideas that they may never have had or directions of, hey, have you tapped into somebody, do you see a primary, do you have a specialist, have you tapped into somebody who's integrative, yet, or have you thought about acupuncture, etc., and plant those seeds and, maybe even have some resources, whether it's, postings or business cards or pamphlets or whatever of integrative or holistic practitioners in your area that, that could be available to them. Making relationships with those people in your area, if you haven't already, is obviously a fantastic thing. And there are websites that people, around the country can use to put in your zip code and find integrative or holistic, practitioners in their area. So that's a nice resource too, where, people can really access somebody local to them as needed.
You say that was a website?
Yes, so there's a website called the AHVMA .org. So that's the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Association, so AHVMA.org, and there's a zip code search for holistic veterinarians. And so people can type in their zip code and find people in their area. Again, I do telemedicine. There are some, other veterinarians that may offer that as well. So we don't necessarily have to be in your area, but sometimes you need somebody local for hands-on stuff, and certainly and some holistic veterinarians, of course, are also full service. Sometimes they offer the whole, comprehensive, medical, availability. But some people, serve more of just that niche, and so people can kind of find and plug into, what works for them.
Cool. That's a really important resource right there.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Eden, because again, it's good for people to do their own, sort of, research and investigation too. Just because something is listed on the site, even HVMA, they're much more likely to be truly, knowledgeable and offering those types of services. But there are definitely, in general, as you say, there are veterinarians who advertise as being holistic and they are not. And so that is a really good thing to really know, that even once you find somebody is, feeling free to respectfully ask good questions about, what kind of, practices or things that they offer, and, really checking out what their services are so they can feel like it's a good match for them. And always, once you meet a veterinarian, if it doesn't feel like a good match, go out and look for other options where you really feel comfortable with the doctor you're working with. So don't feel trapped into maintaining a relationship with a doctor that doesn't feel like a good fit.
That's good. That's great information to have too. Really quick, I guess here at the end, if someone wants to is really curious and they want to start learning, where should they begin?
Oh gosh, resources like yours, actually. I mean, this is a great, truly, you guys, you're having such good, and believe me, I'm honored to be speaking to your audience right now. But even the few previous podcasts you had that you mentioned with, Tabati and Totonics and such, you are offering a great platform of education. There are memberships and, of all kinds where people can, tap into. So I don't know if you want to list some of those or me to voice those, but there's paid content, obviously. There's also other free content. I will actually have a podcast coming up soon as well. And so people can look for that. Challenging.
You were just on the Inside Scoop? You were just on the Inside Scoop, right?
I was. So that's what, so I was going to mention, Inside Scoop is a wonderful resource. So tapping into that is a phenomenal membership to have. And I do get to join Karen and Rodney at least a few times a year. And I've already been on 3 times this year. So that's been a huge pleasure. And so I'm glad you guys are aware of that and hopefully saw that as well. So that's a wonderful resource. Many others out there. Dr. Judy Morgan obviously has a huge platform and a lot of tools out there as well. And then podcasts such as yours, and then I'll be making a little contribution coming that way as well pretty soon. So
awesome.
Yeah.
We'll definitely be sharing that.
Yeah, we're excited for you. All right, one last question here. After everything you've learned from the animals that you've helped, the clients that you've helped over the years, the time you've spent studying health, what have animals taught you about being human?
Oh gosh, that's such a good question. Honestly, one of the most beautiful gifts that our animals teach us, and this is big for me too, I think it's big for all of us in today's world, is being present, is being in the present moment. And they're always in the present moment. And they're always there, just like being a beacon for us to tap into being present. And we're human, so, it's not to get into the guilt thing of, oh gosh, I'm stressed, and so my pet's feeling my stress, and then it stresses you more because, your pet's, feeling it. Not to get into that cycle, but to just have that awareness that your pet is there as just a reminder of, being present, breathing, enjoying that moment with them. And they'll literally just come sit next to you often, as you all know, when, you're feeling stressed or sad or whatever, and, your dog or cat will just come sit by you and just, ask for a nuzzle or purr or look at you. That is so powerful. It's so simple, but so powerful. Yeah. And I think that is truly one of there's many, but that is one of the greatest gifts.
That's amazing. I just want to say from the bottom of our hearts here, thank you, Dr. Katie, for coming on today.
Thank you.
One of the things we are constantly reminded of through these conversations is that none of us has all the answers. We just have to stay curious enough to keep asking better questions. So truly, thank you for being on today.
We're never done learning, just like you said, and even just us being together today, we both learn from each other, and the whole audience learns from us and each other. So it's it's the mission that you guys have in supporting everyone in this way is well appreciated, and thank you for
Megan, do your share your bowl too, and so thank you for sharing your bowl.
Thank you. Yes, I thank you. That rounds right back to, I meant to mention in the beginning with my logo, that then when I created my products, my tagline is share your bowl, because even though my products are created for pets, they're all human worthy, and everything we do for our pets we should be doing for ourselves, and vice versa, in the support of health and wellness. So thank you.
I
Share your bowl. Keep on sharing your bowl with Pure Positivity. Woohoo!
Awesome. There's not a better way to end it than right there. So,
Right.
thanks, Dr. Katie.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you so much. See you soon.
Welcome to the